that
Tonight,
story.
ma'am, you be encouraged.
Our
Miss
guest.
Rita,
Thank you.
be encouraged and keep the faith, girl. Tell your story.
Thank
Somebody
you so
needs
much.
to hear it. Everybody has a testimony.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
And
caller.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
God bless you as well. All right. Thank you. Thank you, caller. Yes. See, it doesn't have to be something that you think it's impossible, that it can't be possible.
Mm-hmm.
The lady was blind. She still achieved her education, and now she's helping others. Amazing, amazing story. So thank you, caller. Now, also, let you know that after this interview, our lines will be open. So keep your fingers on the dial. Garita Coddington, when and where were you born?
I was born in Bermuda
Mm-hmm.
at King Edward Memorial Hospital, of course.
Mhm.
I was born September 3rd, 1974.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we talked about my parents. My mother, Amanda Jennings,
Mhm.
who passed away last week. And then my father, Garrett Punchy Dill.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So you had a close-knit family. That's what you said in the interview.
Very close-knit. I was fortunate, and I'm so grateful for this, right?
Yeah.
We didn't come from money. You know?
Sure, sure.
When I think about my mother's side,
Uh-huh.
you know, I make the joke, we stayed in this really big house in Government Gate. They call it Kite Hill, right?
Uh-huh.
At the top of
Kite
the hill.
Hill, okay.
Kite Hill. Even where I work now at KPMG, my office, when you look out of my window, I can see the house that I grew up,
Really?
you know,
Really?
at. And I tell people, look at that orange house. That's where I come from. But, you know, it was a big family.
Uh-huh.
My mom, there were 10 siblings. And,
Wow,
you know,
wow.
their parents. And my grandmother died very young.
Okay.
So I always say we stayed in a 4-bedroom. We had an outhouse. We had to dip
Ooh,
water.
okay,
You know,
yeah.
It was all the children there. We played a lot outside. We never had a conversation about finances. It was all about the environment. We had food to eat.
Mm-hmm.
We were very clean. We had to be.
Right.
And we were able to live together synergistically, you know,
Right.
play, like we have memories,
Yeah,
right? My
yeah.
childhood was I had a very happy childhood.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
some people could say she was the bossy one, you know, I'm sure they would say that. But we had a lot of memories, and every single one of my aunts and uncle played a part in our lives.
Sure, sure.
Whether it was being role models of demonstrating how to cook, or when it came to the athletics,
Uh-huh,
or just
uh-huh.
how to be able to manage tasks,
Yeah, yeah.
how to keep a house clean.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so that was my mother's, the Jennings side of the family.
Right, right.
Then we have the Dill side of the family.
Okay.
And, you know, Colleen Dill was my grandmother. She passed away, July 1st, 2024.
Okay.
So her and my
wow.
mom they're my best friends. So now they're
Sure.
together. They're together spiritually in heaven, right?
Yeah.
And that family, my dad, it was, I believe, 6 of them.
Mm-hmm.
1 girl on Sanya, and then it was 5 boys. And
Big families.
big family. And what I love is that my grandmother always allowed us, you know, to come over and be part of that Dill family. And the Dill family was a family that, like the Jenningses, was very connected. What they showed me and was able to to see what love looks like the hugging, the kissing,
Okay,
the embracing,
they're very
the positivity.
affectionate.
Yes. We spent a lot of time. I used to go there after school. My grandmother used to take care of my brother, Jamiko.
Uh-huh.
And we used to, you know, go down there. We used to go there for Christmas. So
Oh.
Christmas was the morning with the Dills and the evening with the Jennings.
Look at that.
And
Yeah.
it was like, when I look back at my childhood, I had the best childhood ever.
Look at
and it
that.
was not about, again, the financial piece of it.
No,
Like,
no.
Back
It was the
then, it
togetherness.
wasn't about any shoes or clothes. It was like, hey, we're going to hang out, you know?
Yeah, we're going to be together.
We're going to be together.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Now, this was you lived in your maternal grandfather's house,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah, and
Yes.
so it was a multi-generational house.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And that's where you sort of
Yes.
got the best of everything, as far as people moving and guiding you and feeling safe and secure. You felt belonging.
Yes.
Yeah, felt belonging. And you also said it kept you grounded.
Very grounded. I mean, when I think about, if I have a memory, I remember we lived downstairs. Papa Jimmy's family lived downstairs, and upstairs was his siblings. And you had, my grandpa, I don't remember, but I knew that he also had an amputation, so he was in a wheelchair. Then you had Aunt Dee, and she had some type of, whether it was Down syndrome or something. So it was an acceptance of things that were different, right?
Got it.
We had another family member that, that lost an eye, So it was this environment where nothing was brought to the attention because you looked or sounded different.
Got it.
It was such acceptance.
Yeah,
and,
I love that.
The neighborhood kids used to come over our house because we had a very big yard. And like I used to tell my children or people, like, if you knew where I came from, I'm very proud of what I've accomplished, but where I came from actually was the roots to tree that was like, when you water the tree to get this strong foundation to grow, to flourish. So I'm humbled and I'm very proud of that.
Wow. You attended church with the family. Was that something that your family did?
Oh, yes. I need to attend church more. Please, I would be the first to say that. But her chapel was, where my grandmother, Minnie Jennings, was a member of.
Okay.
And, the stories my mom or my aunt would tell me that they had to go church on Sundays and then they had to go Bible studies. And I'm like, gosh, how many days out of the week? So they were very grounded. She also did missionary work.
Okay.
She went to Africa and, it's such depth.
Just a question. Are you related to Winona Jennings?
Yes. Somewhere there, yes.
Oh my goodness!
Yes, Winona Jennings. Yes,
I remember that.
Yes.
That you said that the Jennings. She was a missionary.
Yes.
When I was a little girl at St. Paul's AME Church, and we would pray for her and raise money for her. She was an amazing woman. So
that's
so you
part of the Hill.
Yeah, you got some deep rooted.
People,
AME
right? clan
there. Yes, indeed. And you had plenty of playmates. And you sort of said that you were a tomboy.
Yeah.
In what way?
So my cousins, there were about 15 boys, I think, or 10. But it was only Maxine was the oldest, then it was Nicole, then it was myself, and then it was Melisha. But Melisha was, she stayed around Middletown or around the curve.
Okay.
So she was my Uncle Doc's daughter. So the girls, we lived together. And Nicole and Maxine were older, so I got to hang with the guys, climb trees and go with them football training. And summertime, we couldn't afford to go to a camp. So I'll hang with the guys and, my Aunt Claudette would take us. Our outing was to walk down to sit off at the ferry terminal. I did not say catch the ferry.
No.
Or we'll go down Docking Stool and, jump off the rock. So, I'm used to being around males.
Yeah, and, okay. You stand on your own.
Yeah.
Even around the guys.
Yes.
Good for you.
Again, they may say I was a little bossy, but, I was the only girl.
Yes.
I was the only girl, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You also said that you pretended a lot and you like to dream.
Yes. I could envision, back at the homestead, there was...
And this was in Government Gate.
This was in Government Gate,
right.
yeah. So there was like this, if you drove up into the actual area where we lived, and it was the only house there, right? And then we had this hill, and we used to run up and down the hill, play hopscotch. But I remember sitting on the hill and looking out because we had such a view of the dump and the marsh and TCD, and we can see everything. It was a nice view. And I would think about, like, one day, what am I going to be? And what did I want to be? And, my cousin Maxine used to call me a dreamer.
Visionary.
She'd be like, you're such a dreamer, because if I go back to the Dill side, my grandmother's youngest sister, Aunt Annie Dow, I admired her so much. And she had a nice house in Southampton. We used to go there to go to her pool. She had a convertible. She seemed like she had it together. So one day, I don't know how Aunt Dow got that, but one day I want that. I want to work hard to be that.
Yeah.
And again, not that is about materialistic, it's about growth and development.
Yes,
what is it that I can aspire towards? So from young, that was my goal,
Okay, great. What primary school did you attend?
Of course, I went to the Victor Scott Primary School.
Of course. And Victor Scott was not far from where you were. No,
We walked to school.
So you walked to school. Were you involved in any extracurricular activity?
Well, back then, you had to do your work, and I did sports. People don't believe it, but I was head girl, house captain. I was in the choir. I did any type of the theatrics if they had any plays. And my mom was always in the front row, you know.
Wow,
and she used to cry a lot. Anything I did, she used to just cry. I'm like, oh, mama, please.
She was so proud of you.
Oh, she cries. My daughter could have, like, oh my gosh. But yes, I was very involved, but very quiet. I was not one. Yes, I wasn't one that you would be the loudest in the room. So I reflected. I'm like, well, how did they figure out I could lead? You know, how did they figure that out? I was always friends with everyone.
Okay,
and I love the underdog. Okay. So I could be with the most popular people, but I love to engage with people that people forget about, right? And that was also who I was when I went to the Barclay Institute, when I left Victor Scott, right?
Yeah, wow. So you went to Victor Scott, but you also went to Bishop Spencer for a little bit?
I went like P1.
Before we
transitioned. P1.
Right, yeah. And you talked about some of because you were involved in netball, head girl, and Mr. Lesbier was one of your good teachers.
Very gracious. P7 back then, right?
Yes.
So Mr. Lesbier. So, you know, I say to people, you don't have to be the brightest academically. You don't have to have the highest IQ. It's about, now we know it's emotional intelligence, where you want to be able to do better and be better. So you have to surround yourself with people that can help you to get where you want to go. And Mr. Lesbier was one of those. So, you know, I wanted to go Barclay. My oldest cousin, Maxine, went to the Barclay. And Mr. Lesbier said, okay, Garita, we're going to do extra lessons in the morning. And then we may have to do extra lessons after school, because, you know, you have to get ready to sit the
11
plus test, right? So I did what I had to do. Never complained, you know.
Yeah.
And he was one that, he was what we will call my sponsor around the table, right?
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for him.
Absolutely.
And that was one of the first people that I can remember that really taught me about sponsorships, and how that a person does not have to be born with certain things that can be developed.
Absolutely.
When you surround yourself with a team of people that believe in you, because once they believe in you, then, and you buy into their belief, because I'm like, Mr. Lasberry wants me to do what? He wants me to do what? And he'll be like, you can do it.
Yes,
you can do it,
yes,
you know?
yes.
And sometimes even on Saturdays, you know, and my mom was very open about whatever support her daughter needed to get to where her daughter wanted to go.
Obviously. She obviously saw the best in you, and she was happy that there were others in the education system who saw it. Now, you have a sibling.
Yes.
Okay. What's his name, and is he older or younger?
Let me give you his full name.
It's your story.
His name, Jamiko Sakai Jennings. He's 4 years younger. No, Jamiko's 7 years younger than me.
Okay.
7 years younger than me. He's just a wonderful individual.
Okay.
Jamiko has two children, Ziani and Gemma.
Okay.
The experience with my mother.
7 years younger.
7 years younger, yeah.
Wow. So you were an only child for a while.
Yeah.
Okay. What was it like having a little brother coming along? Do you remember?
I just know he was a cutie pie. Jamiko was born with this really big head, not like he had this head on. I just remember this. He grew into his body grew into his head, right? And I remember when he was young, I used to hit the front of his head so he could fall back, right?
No.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Big sister.
I know, but he was a cutie pie. He was and he's still the same. He had a very quiet demeanor.
Okay.
He's very in control of his emotions. And I also saw that as we were taking the journey with our mom, her being sick, and we each had our strengths, and I saw his strengths and his ability to stay calm in the midst of chaos.
Yeah.
Jamiko is a very good athlete. No matter what he does well.
Wow.
But he's known for football in this country. Okay. Very good footballer. His son's a very good footballer. And he's also, I think he hides his genius sometimes. Meaning like, he's this like, if you need something, he can do it. But he's not going to tell you really what he's capable of.
Okay, so he's very humble about it.
He's very humble, and he also has a business. I'm putting a plug in for him.
Okay.
And, you know, he can spray cabinets, he does roofs, he does etc. He's just a very versatile man. And whatever I can do to support him, I will definitely do. He also works for education, and he works for the IT department in the Department of Education, and he does that very well. And everybody loves him. He has this charisma. You know, when we look at the word charisma, is charisma something that everyone has? Heck no.
No,
But he
no.
has this ability, and he's very quiet demeanor.
Okay,
But
okay.
whomever he goes around, even when we were away at the hospitals or wherever we went, he can draw people in, and all he does is give you the smile, right?
Okay.
I'm very proud that God saw fit for us to be siblings.
Absolutely,
very much,
yeah.
very proud.
Well
Yes.
done, well done. So from Victor Scott, you went to the Berkeley,
Went to the Berkeley.
and what was that like?
That was a new world.
Mm.
One thing I loved about the Berkeley is the culture. The culture is one that the expectation is, number one, you got in. Back then, you got in.
Yeah, you got in. Yes,
You got
yeah.
in. So the expectation is that you be proud of this institution of learning.
Yeah.
And you respect it. So we had to learn the school song. We had various, like there was routines that you did every day. When you
Okay.
went to assembly, there was an expectation. There was an expectation of how you wore your uniform. So, the teachers there, they actually cared about your success.
Okay,
Even
okay.
if there were, local teachers or foreign teachers. But
okay.
that was where I had the grounding of expanding myself.
Right,
Because
right.
back then you had children come from all over the country.
Yes, yeah.
To come to this learning institution, and I met my best friend. I met her in what was it? We don't call it S1. First year.
First year,
I'm thinking
yes.
of what we
First,
used
second,
for language.
third, fourth,
and
fifth.
fifth.
Yes, yes.
Alrita Wade. She was Alrita Simons when we went to the Berkeley, and Mark Bean and
Oh,
David
yeah,
Chapman
yeah,
and
yeah.
Tammy Russell and Jennifer Phillips. These people are people that I still am very close with.
Yeah, yeah.
So going to the Berkeley actually allowed me to expand myself, be open to other people and how they operate.
Yeah.
And then also see that there could be this different type of future.
Yeah, yeah. And you excelled in Berkeley.
I did all right. Yeah. Did
Yeah,
all right.
I know. One of the things you said was that you had to work hard for your grades. I mean, some persons just sort of study and whatever, but you put the work and effort into it in order to excel. And when you graduated, they said that you were the most likely.
Like to succeed or
Yeah,
something.
to
or
succeed.
something. It's weird. Yeah.
Amazing.
Something like that.
What were your favorite subjects in Berkeley?
Science,
Science.
and PE.
And PE. Two very
Yes.
different.
PE because I guess movement, right? People
Yeah, it
don't-
was sports.
seriously, even today, people don't think I was an athlete. I thought I was an athlete. Miss Phillips,
Oh.
if Arnold Mendes or whatever. Yeah, like I played netball. I was pretty good. I was very
Yeah,
good at it,
yeah.
But definitely the science, Joan Blades was very much instrumental in me deciding what my major was going to be when I go into
Okay.
university. And she was my chemistry teacher.
Okay, okay.
Mr. Morgan, he was from Wales. He was my physics teacher, and he was so funny. And he was also our homeroom teacher, I think, when I was a fourth year.
Yeah.
So these people were very instrumental in building my love for learning. And the expectation was high. You had to get GCEs. You had to not only graduate with BSSC, but they still do it, but with the Berkeley, grade point average and all of that. So it was this expectation that success was contagious. Like you were not embarrassed. You was embarrassed if you did poorly.
Right, yeah.
You could
yeah.
not go to summer school. Like that was, you don't do that.
Right, that wasn't the thing to do.
was
You
not,
wanted
like,
to excel all through the school.
All through the school.
And do
You
your
cannot
best.
stay
Yeah,
back,
Right, yeah.
But if you did, then the young people embrace you, and wanted you to do better so that you then move with them to the next year. So it was this
Right, yeah.
positive culture where, keep the end in view, that was what we were about. And it's nice because now I get to sit on the Berkeley board and I see it from a different perspective,
yeah.
through the leadership of the principal,
Excellent.
Keisha Douglas. So it's interesting being able to see how you were as a student and then now how you are supporting the growth and development of the school.
Receiving the message when you were a certain age and now implementing it.
Yes.
Now that you're
Yes.
able to do that. Wow. Okay, so you graduated from Berkeley and you were going to study what? What was your next move? What was your decision?
Well, I didn't know what I was going to study. My mom said that, you're not going to uni. So we then went to sixth form at Bermuda High School for Girls.
Okay.
So it was a group of us that actually left when we graduated from Berkeley. We went to BHS.
Okay.
And when we went to BHS, they also had maybe 3 or 4 of their students that actually did this sixth form.
Okay.
Like prep school, right? We will call it
Sort of
prep
like
school.
A-levels?
And A-levels, yes.
Right, okay,
yes,
okay.
yes.
All right.
But I felt that, I think that's when I started to get find my voice. Going to BHS back then, and that was in, 1991, right?
Okay.
You know, I started September 1991, and back then, we were very equipped intellectually and had competence with the subject matter. So at times we will go to class and I'll be like, excuse me, Miss So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so, we've already done this. Can you give us something else? Because we've already covered this.
Sure.
And I think at times it made them feel uncomfortable, right?
Ooh.
You know, the young people from the Barclay Institute coming over and challenging. And I look back, it wasn't anything that was supposed to make someone feel uncomfortable. Now I would encourage people that get challenged like that to be able to stretch themselves to meet the needs of the learner.
Got it.
So at times it became kind of boring in class because we've covered that.
Yeah. So why are we doing this, And
or so what's next? Give us the test so we can do something next. Yes.
Wow. So here you were, and I think some of the things you mentioned is that maybe you could be a dentist, or maybe you could be a med tech, and so you went to BHS and realized that, some of this stuff was already done. But something happened while you were at BHS. There was, you were 16. And you
17.
You had a bike.
I turned 17, yes.
Yep, and you can travel. Independence had hit you. But something happened on this particular day, November 5th, 1991. What happened? Tell us what happened.
Well, I did leave school. I don't know why. Probably because I already did that.
Yes. why am I listening to this again? I
left school and I traveled to see my grandmother, who, again, was one of my most favorite people in the world, her and my mother. So it was her birthday. And my Aunt Sonia the other day was saying that my Uncle Joe must have said something to me at a football game, maybe the Sunday before that. Hey, you haven't seen your Nana. So it was very important that as her birthday came around, I needed to go see my Nana.
Sure.
So I don't remember if I went to see her first, but it was important that I get her a card.
Okay.
I love that. I love, my parents are big like that, my mother and father. Like, it is very important that you show people through written word how they mean to you. So I left her house or something to go to the apothecary to get her a card.
Right.
So I was traveling what is now Somersfield. I was coming off the hill. I forget the hill. If you're leaving Lindo's to come down to Somersfield. And then I was traveling east to go to, I guess I was going to try to turn if I got close to Allier Primary. But when I got to the barbed wire fence, back then it was the National Sports Club. So it was remember the barbed wire fence? So that's where they had the cricket pavilion and all of that. Then it was it had just finished raining. So maybe I was at my Nana and then I left when it was finished raining to go, and I wanted to get her this card. But coming down the hill, so they were coming west, I was going east. Back then I was probably 100 pounds on this bike, taking my time. I was not speeding. When I looked up, I saw that the truck, what do they call these trucks? The heavy trucks. It was a big truck. Office and equipment or something. It wasn't dumping truck. It was like a moving truck, like office and equipment or something like that. I saw that the driver lost control of the vehicle. So what had happened, I was told, was that as the truck was coming down the hill and had been raining, so it was wet, the wheels locked. So when the wheels locked, maybe he was speeding, I don't know, but when the wheels locked, he was swaying from left to right. So I remember saying, well, when he comes to me, I'm going to yank the bike. But he still caught me. So when he caught me, he smashed me against the barbed wire fence. So remember, if I'm going east and he's going west, my right side of my body was what was traumatically hit by
the truck.
So I just remember waking up on the ground. There was this lovely taxi driver, and he came over and he said, "Don't look at your leg." And I'm like, what? Like, did I break my leg? Because I didn't feel anything. And then I was worried about my face.
Ooh, so, of course, you're 17. That's important.
I had a bloody nose, a cut lip, and I could feel it swelling up. And then this was the cool thing that happened. If I was unconscious for a minute, and this is true, there was like I remember this bright light, and there was someone with a voice, a female, of course, that said, and I say it's an angel, right?
Of course.
This is supposed to happen to you. Everything's going to be all right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Clear as day. You saw the bright light and these words came to you.
So in my mind, I'm like, oh, I just broke my leg.
Okay, yeah.
I just broke my leg.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, what's the big deal?
But
So
there was assurance.
yes.
The words was an assurance for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was calm.
Yes, yes.
So they took me in the ambulance. I had never been in an ambulance before. And I go to the hospital and then I see my parents and I see people crying. I'm like, gosh, why everybody's crying?
And you had a boyfriend then too, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
No.
He wasn't my boyfriend. We liked each other, but I had, I was into my schoolwork. I didn't have time,
right.
but we liked each other. So we were friends, right?
Okay, yeah.
We became partners, boyfriend and girlfriend after that. I think.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I think. But he was right by my side, right? So, so went to the hospital. Tons of people coming, my friends coming who were still in Bermuda, my family members because the deals, the Jennings and everything.
Yeah, yeah,
And then I
sure.
remember my dad coming in or my mom coming in and they just said, this is a serious accident. I don't remember if they talked about having to amputate my leg at that time, my lower right leg. But I do know that at that time, I don't know the name of the doctors, but they wanted to, because of the trauma, there was no blood pumping from my veins and my arteries to my foot. However, I remember my father saying that they wanted to amputate me above knee, which made no sense. So he went into fix-it mode. Thank you, Jesus,
yes.
for that. And he made some phone calls. And the next thing I know that we are on an air ambulance traveling to Duke University in North Carolina.
Okay,
Yes.
right. And while there, the treatment you said was phenomenal.
Yeah, and that was way back in 91, right?
Yeah.
So I remember it was like a movie. You get off the air ambulance, this jet, then you get on the helicopter, and the helicopter goes to the top of the roof of
just like you do in the movies.
Yes. The doctors and the trauma teams coming out. And then I remember going down into emergency or somewhere, and this doctor did such a great job. Again, it's about preparing the client for what's to come.
Yes.
And he did a great job of taking me through medically what was happening to my body at a level that I can understand as a 17-year-old.
Sure.
Wow, with my
wow.
parents there, and I remember he looked directly at me, and then he said, they told him my name, like Cola Peaches, and they said, and I remember him saying, I need to tell you something. You have to be okay with this. Do you trust me? All of that stuff. He says, there's nothing I can do. And I said, okay, because remember,
yes, the voice.
and I don't know why, again, I was so calm, grace of God, right?
Yeah.
So this happened, the surgery happened, and then I wake up. This is the beauty of family. And I wish everybody had this opportunity or experience that. I wake up in the hospital, and I had a private room. Thank God for my mom's insurance, I guess. And I wake up, and of course, my mom and dad's there, but my Nana Ma Dio's there, and my Aunt Sonia's there, and Joe Trott's there.
Wow.
And it was this calming that family is so important.
Once you saw them, you were okay.
I was like, okay.
Whatever's happening, I'm fine. My family's
fine.
here.
And of course, being able to then, when you have a traumatic accident and one of your limbs are removed, and it was an amputation from lower right leg underneath the calf, and you have to now, your body has to go back to equilibrium. So you have to learn to do things from scratch. So they were very instrumental in helping the nurses while I was in the hospital to get through that first phase of recovery.
Sure.
And it's very important that people understand that even in our country now, do we have a team of people that are coming to put a specific bespoke program in place for recovery? Because from
So
there,
important.
because it's a mental thing, right? From there, then you go to a rehab, which was part of the whole process of Duke University. And I remember, to this day, I remember my PT, his name was Mario, this tall guy who reminded me of Jerry Seinfeld.
Okay.
I just remember the face and the nose, and he was from Quebec or something.
Okay.
And he was the one that was instrumental with preparing myself, my mind, body, and soul to have to exit, because, and I'm sure they do it now, you had to go through various phases and complete various assessments, quantitatively or qualitatively, to be able to exit being in the recovery, the rehab clinic, to go home or to go to the hotel so I could be with my parents. And then I just used to come there. But it was a process,
It was very holistic, you said.
Yes.
Yes. And even though there was this thought that maybe you'd have an emotional breakdown, you realized that there was a higher power.
So that was the joke. I think I told you, and it was a black woman. I guess she was doing her doctorate. I don't know, because you have to have a psychologist, right?
Yeah.
Or psychiatrist. And I remember her or my mom saying that this lady came to her and said, something's not right with your daughter. And she's like, what do you mean? She's taking this too well. This doesn't make sense. She's 17 years old. She's just finished high school, blah, 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 blah. You know, she went through my profile and she said, you know, this doesn't make sense. So she will have a nervous breakdown. It will happen. All I know is that I never saw that lady again.
Of course.
So I'm sure my mother had a conversation with her, a very stern one, or my father, because
yes,
both, you know.
Yes, but, indeed.
I never saw her again, and I never had another psychiatrist or psychologist come to see me. But with the help of, I had my family members come to visit. I had my cousin Maxine come from Atlanta, and friends come from different parts where they were in university, and they all came to visit. I had some of my friends who were in what we used to have. I don't know if they have it now, the police academy here. What they call it? Police cadets.
Yes. Okay.
And I remember they did a potluck for me. So it was so. I look back and I reflect. It was such a community that supported individuals that had these traumatic experiences to get them through. You know.
Yeah. How awesome is that?
Yeah.
So from young you had that, and right along through to this point. But you come home.
Yes.
After rehabilitation and all that one-to-one therapy, you come home. What was it like coming home in that position?
This country, and back then, that was in 91, because I came home like December sometime. We don't have a country that everyone embraces difficulty. So I remember, or differences. I remember when people would come to talk to me, not everybody. They would talk to me and look down at my leg. It allowed me to become very self-conscious.
Right.
So wearing long things to cover it. And I said, I was okay, but was I really okay? You know, because okay meant that I can have a conversation with people versus trying to avoid it, because how they engaged with me immediately. And I used to have cousins that would protect me, like, what's your problem? Or try to protect me from individuals, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why now I know it's very important that we build a community of acceptance.
Yeah.
And in this small community, and people would say the Caribbean islands are like that. You know how it's small? I said, no, it doesn't matter if it's small. It's about having a diverse culture with differences, right? That's where DE&I come in, right? So having people to be able to show up and be who they are authentically is very important to the mental health of people. So
absolutely.
I feel for people that now have to go through traumatic things because they can be shunned, or it's the gossip of the week. Are you serious? If anything, the
so
gossip,
unfair.
it should be, how can I support you to help you to get to where you need to be?
What can I do to help you?
What can you do, right?
So
that was something that I experienced, and I believe that was one of the things that triggered my parents to say, okay, you're going away to school. So I went away to university immediately August of 92. I hadn't the accident yet. I went straight to Alabama A&M University, and the reason that they chose that university for me was because I already had family there. My cousin Macy O'Deal was on a scholarship for football there. So my crew went with me, Elrita, Tasha, myself. You know, it was a crew of us that went and started to gather. And I was blessed because I always had support. Always had support. You know, so.
And what did you study at it was A&M University, right?
A&M.
What did you study?
First,
I
studied. First of all, I thought I was going to be a dentist. Then I said, I then changed to medical technology. Then I came home and I actually worked at the hospital. And I found out that the only way that I can develop or go up the ladder to become the leader or the boss is if someone retired or, unfortunately, if someone passed. So I immediately went back and changed my major. No, I can't. I can't wait for that. So I then had a major. My major was zoology and my minor was chemistry. So I graduated with zoology with a minor in chemistry.
Okay. And you came back and you worked. Was it in the biostation?
Yeah, I worked at the biostation with Dr. Ken Simmons, one of the best leaders I've had. Calm demeanor, but very powerful man. And very much community orientated. And so I worked for the biostation for the year I was here before I went back to study teaching.
Okay, and so teaching was now the trajectory of where you were going to go.
Not at first.
Not at first.
The
no.
only reason I got into teaching, thank you so much, Mrs. Marva Allen and Joan Blades, was because, first of all, I was at the biostation, and my responsibility there was to do sample testing for aerosol and water, right?
Okay.
The highest points around the country will go, and Declan was the name of the gentleman that I worked with, and he would go and get the samples, and then my job was to test them. But it was a very redundant job. So what I used to do is the floor wasn't leveled in the lab, so I found this glass container, and I don't know why marbles was there. So I used to put the glass container on the floor because I will finish my work so quickly. But the marbles would move when people had their footsteps came in, so I would jump up because I used to go sleep at times.
Oh dear. I was
finished my work, so I was bored, or I would go and I would visit the other people that worked there, the people that worked for the maintenance. I build relationships, and, that's what I did. So an opportunity came. I think they asked me, Mrs. Allen, for whatever reason, contacted me to, hey, do you want to do some substituting teaching? And I'm like, teaching? I don't want to teach. I do science. And I then said, oh my God, I have to do something because
this wasn't working.
This ain't working.
Yeah.
I was very happy with the environment, but for me, it wasn't fulfilling.
Yeah, right.
So I did some substitute teaching, and I liked it. And then in February of, 96 or something, or 97, I don't know. But I was able to have a long-term teaching position at that time, Sands Secondary School.
Okay.
Under Melvin Bassett, Shirley White, and, oh my God, Daquan's grandfather. It's Mr. Stevens.
Mr. Stevens, okay.
And they brought me in as a math teacher. Now listen to this. Now remember, I don't have any qualification. I did a little bit of substitution, and I only did substitution on Fridays and Mondays. Dr. Simmons allowed that to happen. Yeah. So when I went in, I was the math teacher. Now remember, it was the old system. So first year to fifth years of the students that they tiered these, they streamed these students, so they were the ones deemed as learning support.
Okay.
Who still had to take the BSSC. So they had, unfortunately, their teacher was out. She had back problems, so they had a lot of substitutes. So I had to come in. Young, inexperienced students that had challenges learning material, and I needed to teach the entire curriculum, and I only had from February up until May because exams start June, right? So February, March, April, May. That's 3 months to teach the whole curriculum. March, April, May. Yeah, to students that had challenges, and I had my ups and downs. I was able to, at that time, there was a teacher, Mr. Darren Francis, who taught social studies, who had a mentor, Mary Lodge, who was a principal. She's now retired, that they allowed me to kind of come in when Mary came just to learn and ask questions. Right. And Darren would always come down and check on me, right?
Yeah.
And guess what? 80% of my students passed the BSSC.
Amazing.
So that's when I said, okay, I could do this.
Yes.
I actually can do this.
And do you think it's because of your disability that you were able to impress upon others that the challenges that they have was not going to be their space at this time? Because
I never even thought of myself as having a disability, to be honest.
And speak on that.
So I never. So
never.
When you say disability, I'm like, huh? Who has a disability?
Right.
So I don't think it was that. I think it was how I grew up, the seeds that were planted from government gate. There takes a village. There is no way that you are going to not do your best with me in the room.
Okay.
And what is it? So I will have to learn tools and acquire tools and strategies to help you to do well.
Right.
And it was unconventional at times.
Yeah.
It was very uncomfortable because I was young, and I think some of the boys would develop this. It was very uncomfortable, but I had to work through it. I would go home to my boyfriend at that time and say, these guys did X, Y, Z. How do I handle that?
Sure. Yeah.
I remember when it was graduation, and it was down Sonesta Beach, the prom, and one of the students are like, okay, Miss Jennings, now I can ask you for a dance. You're not my teacher. Like, it was that type of thing.
Yeah.
But I just think it was understanding that it takes a village to be able to help people to be successful.
Got it.
And that I looked at everyone as, you can do it. I don't care. Like Mr. Lasbeer showed me that.
Sure,
the teachers at the Barclay showed me that. My family showed me that. Through my accident, people showed me that and took time to help me to gain strength and, you know, and do different things.
And when you were in primary school, you looked after those people that were the underdogs. So
yes, I love it.
So this is
even in Barclay. Yeah, I love it.
So this is you.
I love it.
This
I love
is
it.
you.
And yeah, right. I had what they quote unquote the students that have challenges learning, right?
Yes. So then you went on to do your master's in education.
Yes.
And you came back, and what was some of the out of the, I guess, next 10 minutes, what were some of the elements that was most for you positive, the successes? And I know you had many, but I want to talk about when you were at Francis Patton School.
Oh wow,
I love that
Francis Patton
story. Oh my goodness. Yeah, tell us a little bit about Francis Patton.
So I started Francis Patton in 2010, August of 2010. I took over from Gloria Martin, who was the principal at that time. And I came into an environment where there, in my opinion, something happened. I was there with Donna Jacobs, who was my admin assistant, still my friend today. And there was a phone call. So I don't know. I answered the phone.
Sure.
And the female on the other line said something like, you know, you're here at this school's not the best. I can throw a stone and it will hit the window of the secretary, but I will never send my child to this school because, and I was like, wow, that was the first. I was like, wow, baptism by fire.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was something that I had to find something that we could be known for. I am not in control of who was hired.
Right.
So I had to figure out with the team, what is it that we can do differently to win?
Sure.
How do we win?
Yes.
And winning looks different, right? It's not in competition with the other schools. It's how do we win so that that lady who threw that stone actually would come and want to bring her children or grandchildren to the school.
There you go.
So, and I took licks because I had to learn how to lead in that capacity. I was a pretty good teacher. I was dedicated to my students. And I now had to become a principal. I used to be a mentor, but now a principal is different. So I always tell people that don't think because a person has technical skills that when you then promote them that they have the ability to actually lead. What we do is manage. So I was managing. I wasn't leading the school.
Okay.
I took some licks in the union. People didn't like Garita Cuddington.
My goodness.
You know, it was a lot.
But that's leadership.
Yeah, leadership is very lonely. And it was very important that for the team, they understood the vision. So we did a lot of workshops, like Saturday workshops. We went out into the community, asked for feedback. What is it that you want for this community and how can the school help you get there? So that's when we looked to adopt the principles of Stephen Covey, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And then his son actually formulated something called the Leader in Me, which was using the principles of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People within schools. And it started at the elementary level.
Got it.
So I was like, hey, let's do this. And then in Bermuda, they had a liaison, Martha Kirkland, who she's phenomenal. And we worked with her to be able to go through what does this look like over the next 3 to 5 years. So it was long-term planning. And some people stayed on the bus. Some people didn't believe in it or left or for whatever reason.
Sure.
Could be for various reasons, even me, you know, but I was determined to support and lead a team that did something totally different because of that that story of the rock that was thrown to us. And we did very well. I believe that people can develop into leaders. You're not born a leader. But when I saw that 5-year-olds up until the age of 10 or 11, we would go to middle schools or senior schools and present, and they were very confident. You know, I see the fruits of the labor when I see young people now being head girl or leaders within our community, and they went to Francis Patton.
That's awesome.
Or if I'm on scholarship committees and I see them interviewing and they're talking about leadership, and I hear language from years ago. No matter what, that was one of the highlights of my career. I was there for 7 years.
Even the community was impacted. I think you mentioned the gas station.
Joseph Marable, who owns the Kroll Esso gas station. He was one of our liaisons who bought into this whole Leader in Me. And, you know, how can I help Mrs. Coddington? And, you know, he did, I guess you would call it an internship. So we had, but our target audience for his internship were our students in the learning support classes.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal. So definitely a highlight. And we
Definitely.
can talk about more highlights. But one of your highlights is sitting here in the studio with us.
That pretty thing over there.
Yes.
That beautiful thing over there.
You are a mother of
Yes.
how many children?
I have 2 children.
Okay.
I have Cree Cuddington, who's 25 years old, and then I have Remy Cuddington, who's 21. And he should
Wow.
be here by now. He came on the British flight tonight.
Wow.
So I can't wait to go home to embrace him.
Yes, indeed. So as a mother, as a teacher, and you took your leadership skills from the education system to another aspect of
Yes.
our community. And where is that now? What are you doing at this moment?
So now I'm at KPMG. I work for the KPMG team in Bermuda. I am senior manager of learning and development, but I also had the opportunity after being at KPMG for a couple of months to expand my responsibilities to work for the KPMG Islands.
Got it.
Which
Right.
I am now working as the leadership and talent development lead and executive coach for the CAIG regions, which includes Cayman, Bermuda, Bahamas, Barbados, Malta, Isle of Man, Guernsey, Trinidad, TNT, and Jamaica.
Wow.
Yes.
Amazing. So the leadership influences that you have are taking you worldwide.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Pretty worldwide.
cool,
Pretty
yes.
good. You also have a desire, I guess, something in your heart for the amputee community in
Yes.
Bermuda, and you have a vision for that. Briefly tell us what that is.
It hit me when I was in Boston with my mom over the summer, and I reached out to Minister Furbit, Tanae Furbit, and had a conversation about, what is it that I said, where are the amputees in Bermuda? It's like they're hiding out. Where's this community? Is it a lost community? Are they getting fed what they need to be able to be successful? And we know the majority of amputees on our island is due to diabetes. It's going to be the older population, but we do have younger people, and most of them probably lost their limb like I did through a traumatic accident.
Yeah.
So she's such a visionary. She has such high emotional intelligence. So it was then having a conversation about, well, what can we do? And one of the visions that she talked about, which I bought into immediately, was how we have the charitable organization like PALS, who I think is one of the best charitable organizations in the world.
Right.
Based on my journey with them, with my mom, the journey they supported my mom. So how do we now create a charitable organization where anyone who unfortunately loses a limb will never have to think about what it costs to be able to live their best lives again?
Yes.
And how do we get the
indeed.
best people to come in to be able to service them through how I was serviced in 1991?
Yeah.
And how can we do that with our country? Because there is a community there, and people have to know that anyone with a disability, you have to think differently about when you have a company, when you have stores,
Yes,
when you
yes.
have community clubs, like
Transportation,
you
anything.
have to think about that, and everyone is not supposed to be the same. So how are you putting things in place? So working with Minister Furbit and other individuals to see how we can work to help that community, that I call it the silent community, the community that we have to get them to be brave to come out, and the community has to be even more accepting and courageous to look at people.
So educating people in the community to understand that these persons, they deserve and they should move in areas just as well and as smooth as we do.
Of course.
I mean, looking at you right now, you are well put together, and if we can give that to everybody who has an amputee or what have you, why not? Why shouldn't they have that ability? So I ask you, who is Garita today?
Garita today is an individual that through her challenges, through her triumphs, very humble, a very positive person, very passionate. I want to be known as a leader that is also kind. I am someone that, again, the underdog, but now I see as the person that has not been given a voice. How do I help or sponsor them to have the voice so that everyone else can see their genius?
Yeah.
And being the best mother to these young adults, right?
Yes.
I felt that at a time I didn't give them the attention they needed. Being a principal is a lot of work. So my mom and my family was so instrumental, but now being a mother and being able to, I'm never going to put myself in my mom's shoes because those are big shoes to fill. But being able to know that they can depend on me when they have children, when they get married or choose not to or whatever, I'm there and that I'm available, and I just want them to be their best selves.
And I just want to say that Azai, who is our intern, is in the studio with us. And I watched how you gravitated right to him and encouraging him and making sure he gets the credits that he needs and all that.
Yes, definitely.
So definitely something that's very much passionate about you. So thank you, Garita.
Of course.
Thank you. You know, in an RG newspaper dated 26th of November 2015, you were quoted as saying, "Knowing that I can have a positive effect on the lives of children and their families is something that I'm grateful for every day. Everyone wants to succeed in the world, to achieve extraordinary things. My job as a leader is to make that happen."
I said that.
You sure did. I took it right out of the paper. And I want to add that your motto is honorable, and your passion and leadership skills have taken you throughout Bermuda and now the world. We at It's Been Said salute you.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much.
And now, beautiful people, we are opening up the telephone lines briefly on Magic 102.7 FM. If you have any questions or thoughts for Garita, now is the time, 297-1027. Or if you're calling from overseas, 1-888-257-9086. That's 297-1027 or 1-888-257-9086. Our telephone lines are open just for a short time. Now, I know you travel a lot, Garita. Are you traveling anytime soon after your mom's funeral? And your mom's funeral is on
Friday.
Yeah. I don't know if you're going to take any time off. You seem so busy, you know.
I have a very good company that I work for that's been very flexible and supportive. But I have to travel to Orlando, Florida at the KPMG Lake House to do a 3-day training for new managers, and then a 2-day the trainer where we're helping other KPMG accountants or different people to learn how to facilitate trainings.
Awesome. Wow. But I don't see the phones ringing. 297-1027 or 1-888-257-9086. If you want to have any questions or thoughts, any comments for Garita, now is the time for the telephone lines are open. I don't see any calls, but I'm going to go ahead and read about there are some calls. Hang on. Magic 102.7 FM, you're on the air.
And good evening to you.
Good evening.
And your guest.
Good evening.
I've just been captivated by your story this evening.
Wow.
Thank you. What captivated you the most?
Just listening to your story from primary school to where you are now. Mm-hmm. You are an inspiration.
Thank you so much.
Inspiration to so many people, and in particular, I had a parent who was an amputee, and so he showed us the determination like you have spoken about tonight.
Wow!
And I just would like to wish you all the very best in all your future endeavors.
Thank you so
much. And also what you can bring to the amputee community.
Thank you so much.
And as I'm talking to you now, I'm looking at a commercial, and the lady is skiing, and she's an amputee.
No way.
That's energy. Wow.
She is a double amputee.
Wow.
Yeah, you see?
Wow.
You see? It was meant for you to caller. You got the affirmations everywhere.
So, Ms. Cudrington, all the very best.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again for all you have imparted to us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, caller. Thank you very much.
And have a good evening, both of you.
You too. Wow. Thank you very much, caller. Thank you. And I know many of you have been totally blessed and inspired by our story this evening. Magic 102.7 FM, you're on the air.
Good evening. Garita Lynn Coddington. I just wanted to say thank you for sharing your story. And no, I truly, truly mean it. Lots of times, we as women, we neglect to tell our stories. We neglect to share for various reasons. It could be fear, it might be shame, it might be just trepidation. And so I just want to say thank you as I'm here, doing my due for work tomorrow. I definitely have been inspired, encouraged, and I want to encourage you to continue to morph into all that is to be for you. And thank you, Ms. Wade, for bringing Ms. Connington on, and I wish both of you a blessed evening.
Thank you so much, caller. Thank you. Thank you very much, and you have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I tell you, stories like this just inspire people to continue to believe in themselves and believe in the cause. So I'm going to read through, and if you want to call while I'm reading through this, our platinum sponsor, which was Atlantic Vision Care. When was the last time we had a comprehensive eye exam at Atlantic Vision Care? They believe that every patient deserves personal attention and professional care, and that's their foundation. They are a full-service eye and vision care provider, handling everything from scheduled appointments to unexpected eye emergencies. Their dedicated team takes the time to explain every exam and procedure, answering all your questions and keeping you completely at ease. Atlantic Vision Care has patients from all over Bermuda. Why? Because they trust their commitment to eye health. Patients who are coming to them work with their vision insurance providers, making sure that every patient gets the best care possible. Contact Atlantic Vision Care at 295-7300. Cutting edge vision care that's close to home. Magic 102.7 FM, you're on the air.
Good evening. It's me again, and Miss Codrington.
Good evening.
Yeah, you really had encouraged me, and something that you said that stood up with me, that everybody needs to be included.
Yes.
Everybody,
Yes.
and when they do things, they need to help things that's going to be assisting those that are different. We call different, but just exceptional.
Yes, I love that. I love that.
Yeah, we're exceptional.
Exceptional. I love that.
Yes,
Absolutely.
and I just like what you said about inclusion.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
So you be encouraged and
Thank you.
keep up the good work.
Thank you
Somebody
so much.
needs to hear your story. Thank you.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you. Have a good
You're
evening.
welcome.
Well, we've come to the end of our show.
Fast.
Yes, we have. 1 hour
Fast.
and more has continued on. So, yeah. And thank you. And once again, you have our sympathy on the loss of
Thank
your
you so
mother.
much.
I
Thank
think
you so much.
you've given her true place. And wherever
Wow.
she is, she knows that you're going to continue to do what you need
Thank
to do
you.
to provide that legacy. So thank you, beautiful people, for listening in once again to It's Been Said. Everyone is born into their once upon a lifetime story, and we live to experience our happily ever after. What about you? Garita has. If you have a story that you believe is uplifting, please send me an email at coolcat, KOOL00 at hotmail.com, and we'll get in contact with you. Thank you to you callers for calling in, and to you beautiful people for listening in. You know you can now follow us on Facebook, and It's Been Said with Cat Wade, or on Instagram, It's Been Said with Cat Wade. Next week is going to be just as special, as we will have perspective and perception with John Luca and a special guest. We meet together every week to hear everyday stories of ordinary people who have overcome challenges, finding ways to cope, to live extraordinary lives. Because as we say, a negative mind will never give you a positive life. Until next time, stay positive. Yeah.
Yeah, my heart's like a highway of memories.
You've been listening to It's Been Said. For more of what your soul needs to refresh your mind through positive words, join Cat Wade again next Monday at 7:30 p.m. here on Magic 102.7 FM.